He's an Olympic silver medalist, the winner of the 2009 New York City Marathon, and the gentleman who just ran his personal best at the age of 38 at the Boston Marathon. Give it up for the one, the only, Meb Keflezighi.
How's everybody doing?
How exciting is this? Thank you, first of all. I know it's been a whirlwind for you. Taking time to come back and join us with the Tri Club, we really, really appreciate it. How about another round of applause for Meb, taking the time to be with us. There's a lot of these folks, they see you run in Boston, but they really don't know the backstory. Let's start. Eritrea, growing up. Take us through what you remember from those years.
I never knew that the life that I had, I would have when I grew up in Eritrea. It was in the middle of a war for independence. And the next day was not predictable what's going to happen. It really wake up, and sometimes I remember my brothers. If they were 12 or older, they were going to be hiding in with this cactus or this eucalyptus trees and whatnot, and the soldiers would surround them at night, and they knock at the door. If you look 12 years old or older or good enough to carry a gun, they're going to take you, and that's the extent of it. And no education was not available, and was through lottery. And my sister, in fact, used to just, pray and see if we could get in. And then if she did, she would promise, I will give 25 cents for me and 25 cents for my brother. But when you're selling chicken and eggs and grain, that 25 cents is a lot of money. But you got to do what you got to do and try to survive day to day. And, at the time of the war, my dad was wanted by the Ethiopian soldiers, or was going to get prison or get killed. And my mom encouraged him to take a stride, basically, to free himself, because he was not going to be any good to us if he's in jail or prison. And it was difficult for him, but he got the okay from my mom to go, even though her dad was kind of skeptical of that. But he did take that journey. It was walking Sudan, and about 225 miles, not know what he's gonna get on his way. He only had a stick for protection, matches in case the hyenas come, and $25 conversion, and bag of barley and canteen of water, and you never know where you can spend the night or what you're gonna eat. But you just gotta do what you gotta do, and he went for it. And the biggest thing that he was leaving behind was 5 kids that are born, 1 on the way, and his wife. He would have a nightmare. He would sleep on the tree sometimes, and where the strong branches, so be able to. Otherwise, if the animal do come to you, if you sleep on the ground, then it's too late.
You're gone.
You're gone.
Most people escape from the Sudan, and your dad basically escaped to the Sudan. And how long was he gone?
He was living in Sudan in about 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then he lived in Italy for 2 years. So I had no communication with my dad whatsoever for 5 years. Or my mom was the only one that had a dialogue and says, I got in, and and then I'll call you. I grew up without running water, Eritrea City, but we were from the capital. We're about 13 kilometers, because I knew this because when I went back in 2002, I said I got to figure out how far it is, and I ran it.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I did the same thing the way I was walking to school. If I'm running late for school, I have to run. So eventually I said, you have no idea. I never knew running was a sport. I never had a watch in my life. So when I went back, I ran it, and it took me about 15, 16 minutes. And roughly, I thought it would be 2.5, 3 miles, close to it. So that's one way and one way back.
Every day?
5 days a week.
5 days, okay. So
I don't go Saturday and Sunday school. So
yeah. When did the family get back together? That was in Italy 5 years after your dad left?
Yeah, 5 years after my dad. My dad is pretty workaholic, you can say. He's just, in fact, today he was at the church, Eritrean church, and trying to clean up as much as he can and hosing the mats and all that stuff. But he does things thorough. And when he was in Italy, he got acquainted with his boss, economics and PhD, and just said, hey, I work hard. He helped them do some paperwork, and because the Italian changed their policy when you can have immigrants coming in, when you cannot have, and the boss helped them basically to do fake paper, and that's how we got saved. And in fact, he asked him to my dad. My dad asked him if he could borrow money with the money that he had saved, and he said, "How much you need?" He said, 10,000 lires. It's 1986, and that's about 6,000 US dollars. And he says, "Is that to save one person or everybody?" He says, "Everybody with the money that I have saved." I said, that conversation happened on Friday, I believe, and he said, "Come back on Wednesday." And then on Wednesday he came back and he gave him an envelope of cash of 10,000 lire. And he says, if you can touch so many lives, this is not a loan, it's a gift. And that's how we got saved.
So, and that brought you to the U.S.?
That brought us to Italy.
That just got you to Italy?
Yeah, and that brought us to Italy. In fact, we met in Athens, Greece, and I ran through the airport security, and I had no idea that, when I came in, I just ran to my dad. I haven't seen him in a while, and the only way he can measure shoe size or shorts or clothes was by asking kids, or ask the guy right there with the yellow. Just how old are you? 11. So I have an 11-year-old son, but we barely had enough food in our stomach. We sometimes, personally me, I know eating dirt when I was in Eritrea. Just your brain needed some kind of minerals or some kind of craving, and it just dig until it gets moisture enough to where you can eat it. So by looking at the 11-year-olds, he's a shirt and shorts and kind of sent to him, but usually, we're a lot more smaller because we're not having three meals a day. And so, but luckily, because of the older brothers that I had, 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers, whatever didn't fit me would go for the older brothers, and what I wasn't young for the young brothers, it would come to me. So, and somebody get out of luck.
So your dad, when he saw you, he thought you were your younger brother.
He thought I was Marhawi. He goes, Marhawi? I said, no, which is 4 years younger than me. I said, no, it's Meb and Mabrahtom. And he goes, and he just went to tears. He just says, if you guys are this bad when I send you money or when I send you clothes, and imagine how the other kids are around. And
right.
And my mom have to kind of get him to reality. She says, she never flew. She never traveled out of the country by any means. Just first time we ever got on a plane. In fact, when I was on the plane coming from at the time was Addis Ababa, I was like this by the window. I'm like, I'm gonna fall. So I'm like, then you want to go there? So that's how it was. And when he saw me, he just my mom told him, don't worry about the sizes. Just make sure all 6 kids are here, because that was his biggest fear. Not knowing the language and not knowing new place and all that stuff. So it's like, don't worry about it. They're going to get stronger, they're going to eat, they're going to get bigger, but make sure just all 6 of them are here, because that was their biggest worries.
So how long were you in Italy, and when did you come to U.S.?
I was in Italy for 1.5 years in Milano, and I went to school in Monza, which is about 45-minute ride, and I lived there for 1.5 years and spoke Italian 6 months, just like that. I still understand it, but it's been 1987, so 27 years that I haven't used it, and I, it's hard to speak back, but I definitely understand it. And we came here on October 21st, 1987.
And you were 12 years old?
Yes, I was 12-year-old and moved to San Diego, beautiful San Diego. And the reason we came here was the Red Cross sponsored us to come here, and the reason here was my half-sister from my dad's previous girlfriend was living here. That's the way we ended up the reason in San Diego. And all we had was the clothes on our back. We didn't have anything. Really, the Red Cross gave out the chairs, the bed, the pots, the forks, the clothes, the plates, and chairs, but we had each other. I mean, with 3-bedroom, we stayed with a relative for about a week, I believe, and then we moved to University in Arizona or University in Texas. There's an apartment on the right on Arizona Street.
Yeah.
That's where we settled, and 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Now we are 7 kids because one was born in Italy and a parents, and that's the girls' room, the boys' room, and the parents' room, and that's about it.
So when you came here, did you speak any English at all? How long did that take?
No, we didn't speak any English when we came here, and my dad had somewhat understanding of English, but he only went 7th grade education, and then his dad passed away, and he has to take charge of life in Eritrea. But I remember he promised his mom that this education is not for you, but it's all for your siblings. And when we came here, I remember talking on the plane and just said, you know, we all gonna go to class because in Eritrea, what we understood was it doesn't matter how old you are. It's what you know. If you know your ABCs or if you know how to read or write and all that, that's the what level you are placed in. And we're like, oh, we're all gonna be together and in the U.S. And then we were in shock because my oldest brother was in ninth grade because of his age, and my other brother was in seventh grade, and then they put me, even I was supposed to be in seventh grade because I didn't speak English, maybe put him in middle school so he could have advantage learning the language. And, you know, my oldest brother worked extremely hard. My dad woke us up at 4:30 to learn the language dictionary word by word and basically said, this is the opportunity that your parents don't have, or my mom and dad, your uncles don't have, your cousins don't have, so don't waste it. And we went to work very hard, and my oldest brother got the most outstanding student at the end of the year at Roosevelt Junior High. And that gave us, they gave him a plaque that says, Futsun Burhan Rusom, Roosevelt Junior High most outstanding student. And I remember we went there and got accepted the trophy with him and said, you know, this is what America is, the land of opportunity. If you work hard, there's a reward. And we basically, that was the hope on the seed that gave us hope to keep working hard. And in fact, I wish I had brought it today, but my brother just gave me that plaque trophy so I could have when I give a motivational speaking, just because this is what started before. Well, I'll show you the medals and the other stuff.
So when you saw people running for the first time, you were used to soccer and people were chasing a ball. And when you saw people running through Morley Field, oh, well, what's that you're wearing?
It's a little bling. So it's
That's your Boston Marathon.
Boston Marathon.
Yeah, I just happened to have that on, a little bling. So, see, you know what you do when you have something like that on? You wear that on through security at the airport. And they go, wait, what's that that's ringing? Oh, that's my medal I got for winning the Boston Marathon.
And guess what?
Yeah.
And they look at that, they're like, you know, not this one, but the New York or the Olympic Games, you know, the TSA, they go, how'd you get that? I'm like, I earned it. 26.2 miles. And then all of a sudden it's like, and everybody comes around you because that's the guy that won New York. That's the guy that won the Olympic silver medal. And then the guy that won Boston all of a sudden, because even though if I don't have it, I don't usually have it on me. I have it in my bag, and they check you, and it takes forever. And I'm like, looking for a medal. It's right on the right side, and this and that. And then, but all of a sudden, everybody comes around. Wow, can I take CD or take a picture with it and all that stuff? And I'm like, I'm late. I gotta catch a plane.
So when you saw these people running in Morley Field, did you have a clue what they were doing?
You know, how many of you guys know Morley Field? For those of you who don't know, that's where the Foot Locker takes place. So we came here October 21st, 1987. Didn't speak English, didn't have anything, didn't have the finance. And what we did was play soccer, or we call it football. So we dribbled the ball all the way on the sidewalk. It's about half mile from to the park. And my dad used to show us around with the different exercises. And one Saturday, you know, people were running. I'm like, why are these people running? They didn't have a ball to chase. They didn't have anything. They're crazy. And later I realized that 4 years later, or, you know, 6 years later, I was one of those crazy people running the Foot Locker cross country championships.
I love that.
You know, it's but it is, you know, when I first ran at Roosevelt Junior High, right next to the zoo, was, you know, the PE teacher said, Dick Lord, he said, if you work hard or run, put the effort, you're going to get A or B. If I see you mess around or go for a run, you're going to get D or F. And as we were running, you know, you have to run 6:15 to get an A and get your Roosevelt Junior High Mile Club t-shirt. And you get your picture in the window, try to make some friends. And I wanted all those, and I ran as hard as I can. And to my surprise, and never trained, I just played soccer, just happened to be at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. For the mile.
Your first mile.
My first mile, yeah. And he goes, now I understand. At that time, I'm like, he was talking gibberish or something. He says, you're going to go to the Olympics.
And he told your high school coach that too, right?
Yeah, he said, you're going to be in Olympics. I'm like, I don't know what Olympics are. Just went like this. And then he called the high school coach and says, this kid is gonna be going to the Olympics. You know, he knew about my two older brothers, but this little one, he's really good. He's really, really good. And Coach Ed Ramos, and then we moved from North Park to Linda Vista, and for me to go to San Diego High with a Memorial Junior High in Logan Heights, I have to catch a 5:30 a.m. school bus so I could be in the pre-IB at Memorial to go to the IB prep class in San Diego High, and it was just an amazing experience. But they knew that I had the potential, but you have to earn it and work hard to be able to make that dream come alive.
So, 94, you win the 1600 and the 3200 at CIF California State Championships for San Diego High. And when you went off to UCLA, do you remember Coach Bob Larson came down to recruit you? And I remember him telling me he wasn't planning to give you a full scholarship. He was just going to give you a partial, right, a half scholarship, until he met the family. And then he changed his mind and realized that how special your family was, that education was so important. What were your thoughts when you first met Coach Larson?
Well, when I, ran the state championship, it was my goal. My goal was to be the best 7th grader, and then 9th grade I want to be the best in the league, and then hopefully qualify for state. And then by my senior year, hopefully I win the state titles.
Yep.
And I did win the state title and national titles. But before I won the national titles, Coach Larson came and with Eric Peterson to my parents' house and showed the video. They have Bo Walton, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jackie Jr. Kersey, Rayford Johnson, and sounds great. And Coach, he was pretty reserved, Coach Larson, and Eric did most of the talking, and I guess he was practicing how to say my last name to impress the parents. But, he probably didn't say, just said Meb or Mebratom instead of saying the last name. And, Coach Larson and I have been working together for a long time, and he's been a great role model and a father figure, and you never knew that by that interaction where it's going to lead. But yeah, met the family, and I wanted to go to UCLA, and fell in love with what we have accomplished. And we were tenacious about working hard, and coaches usually also look how important academics is, and it was definitely important to him, and it was important to me and my family, and eventually gave me the full scholarship. Harvard was the first one to call me to come for a recruiting trip, and my dad is like, "You going to Harvard?" I'm like, "Dad, I'm not going to Harvard." He's like, "Why not? It's the best school there is. Why wouldn't you?" I'm like, "It's too much pressure." And the weather and all that stuff, and basically I just decided if I was going to go to Harvard or consider Princeton, I was going to go to the East Coast and try to stay there for prep school for a year, because I was 4.0 in high school in terms of academics, but the SAT, as we referred earlier, it was tough. It was really, really tough, and English not being your first language is a very difficult test to take, or have to be able to be a good test taker. And then definitely I could, with the material studied, I'm going to work hard and get it right. But I even did a little bit of practice, but when you don't know like the roots of the word or suffix of the word and all that stuff is, trying to just learn English simply, So it was for that reason I tell him I wouldn't go. And UCLA came with Coach Larson 5-year scholarship. I said, "Yep, I'll take it," and it's been one of the greatest things that I've done, the greatest thing I have done.
So you become a naturalized citizen in 1998. How important was that to you?
Becoming U.S. citizenship was huge for me. It wasn't easy, just because I lived 10 years in Eritrea. I lived a year and a half in Italy. I lived since 1998. I came here 10 years prior to that, so most of my memory was here, but it was 10 years in Eritrea, 10 years in the U.S. My dad wanted me to run for Eritrea. 98, Eritrea was not in the Olympic committee. My mom just said, "Follow your heart." And my brother and sister, some of us say, "Well, run for Eritrea," and others says, "No, run for the U.S." So it was a pretty difficult decision to make. And and Eritrea wasn't the Olympic team, so and I was asked to be on the world championship team in '97. I said, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait." For Eritrea, that is. And then in the U.S., you have to be 1, 2, 3. You have to earn it. Whereas in Eritrea, I was already been inquired to be on the team. So it was a very tough decision, but at the same time, one of the best decisions I made. And I was at the Cabrillo National Monument is where I got my U.S. citizenship, overlooking the water. And I remember there was a guy from Mexico who was, I want to say 90 years old getting his citizenship, and I was 22 getting my U.S. citizenship, or 23, and it's precious to be a U.S. citizen, and an opportunity that, yes, it was a difficult decision to wait it out, just as the mind, but my heart was to become a U.S. citizen and represent the United States, but you have to earn it. That was the risk that I was taking, because if you're not on on that Olympic USA Nationals Olympic trials, then you don't go, and that's the risk I took. And bear in mind, I haven't made a name for myself yet. Won NCAA titles in '97, but other than that, I haven't done anything. So, but I took that challenge, and since then, God has rewarded me with many, many, many titles, 3 Olympic team, and numerous times of world, cross country, and track championships.
So when you win 4 NCAA championships, 5,000, 10,000 cross country, did you see yourself at that point, or Coach Larson see yourself, hey, down the line you're going to be a marathoner, or did you look at that as just crazy talk?
No, at that time I have no idea marathon. I know Ron Tabb, who helped me in 92. He says, it's going to be a beautiful marathon. I'm like, how far is that anyways? I'm like, 26.2. He's like, oh, 8 miles too long already. I'm a miler. And then 97. The 97 was probably the only time that I felt maybe there was a hope I could be a professional athlete. Before that, I did consider going pro at that time. And when I won 4 NCAA title, can you believe there was a prelim for the 5K? So it was Wednesday night 10K, Thursday 5K prelim, Friday off, and then Saturday 5K final. And 50 laps.
Wow.
Within, I guess, 3 days or 3.5 days. And that's when I realized I have a talent to run. For me, that because before that was academics, until still that after that, it did cross my mind to go pro, but I always say, my parents and my sibling always emphasize education comes first, because I was 1 injury away, so I want to make sure I graduated and finished my eligibility, and I finished my communication major in 4 years, 98, and then Coach Larson offered me in UCLA Athletic for a 5th year. I said, you know what, I'll take it. I can make it another year in LA, and nobody ever is going to ask me probably to pay for my education, so decided to stick around 1 more year.
So throughout the 90s, the U.S. running was not doing well, and we really didn't do well on the international scene. Then Coach Larson, Coach Vigil created the Mammoth Track Club. Yourself, Dina Castor, Josh Cox, Ryan Hall moved up to Mammoth. And it was really the first time since Athletics West in the 80s where great runners ran together. How important was that to you in terms of helping your running, but also in terms of reestablishing American running?
In 1998, when I finished my eligibility at UCLA, I wrote a letter to Nike, Reebok, Asics, telling them that I have accomplished what I want to accomplish at the NCAA level, but I tell them I could be a positive contributor to the United States distance running on the track, cross country, road races, and included in the marathon. So my vision personally, I had that right in 98, and I wanted to do something. And but 99, after I graduated, came to San Diego, moved to the Olympic Training Center, stayed there for 2 years, and then I made the Olympic team in 2000, even though I was injured a few weeks before, and made it through. And then I went to Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
Did the 10K, had 2 weeks vacation. 10K is great. You get done early. Opening ceremony on Thursday, Friday prelim, Monday final. You get 2 weeks of vacation and enjoy yourself.
And you're in Australia.
And you're in Australia. I wanted to go to New Zealand, but unfortunately I didn't make it because I had a coaching job at San Diego City College, so I had to come back a little early. But before I left the stadium, I was happy to represent the United States in the Olympic team, but I know I wanted to do something special. Next time I will make an Olympic team, I wanted to bring a medal. Honestly, like we talked about, I didn't think I was going to be a marathoner, so I thought it was going to be in the 10K.
Right.
But it turned out to be in 2004. 2001, I was the first one with Philip Price to go to Mammoth Lakes for what Coach Joe Vigil and Coach Larson had a vision to help resurgence of U.S. distance running. And we did the Carlsbad, and Phil Price and myself drove up to Mammoth. We didn't even have a place to stay. We stayed with race walkers in Aspendale, and snowing. I said, I never driven the snow, so you're gonna drive you from Arkansas. And I gave him my car, but it was fun, and we had a vision and broke the American record, and then that's when Mammoth got in the spotlight. After I broke the American record 15 years,
Yep.
27:13 I ran, and Dina came the next year and broke the American record, and then the rest is, Dina for the women, myself for the male, and Coach Vigil, Coach Larson. It was four of us was what started, and then eventually in 2007 is when people started coming. 2005, 7 when people
Right.
like Ryan Hall, a lot of people from Stanford started coming up, and it was great just because in 2000 there was only one male, one female in the Olympic team on the marathon team, but in 2004, 3 men, 3 male on the Olympic team, and we came home with the bronze and silver.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Kenya, Ethiopia, Norway, Italy. It was from Mammoth Lake, so it was a pretty special moment.
Well, and also going into that Olympics, I remember looking at the field, the men's field. I think your marathon PR was like 39th or something like that in that Athens field, right? It was like, okay, if you're doing this based on resume, Meb's going to be back in the field, but conditions make a race.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you asked me earlier. I know I had a vision. Coach Larson and I discussed that many times, whether to do the 10K and the marathon. I won the 10K, set national championship trial record, and then the marathon, I got second to Culpeper, and probably was my chance. Like you said, there was more than the 10K than won the marathon, but one is the marathon, the history behind Greece, or the Olympics started in Athens, where the marathon to Athens, hot and hilly, humid course. It's going to equalize everybody, and many people know that, but that was my 4th marathon ever for me.
Right. Yeah.
So
you were
my first one, I said I never want to do it again. It was miserable.
it's long. It's a long day.
It's a long day. And then second one, I went to Chicago. I ran my first marathon. I know you guys are going to laugh at this, but I ran 2:12:35. The qualifying for the Olympic was 2:12, so I missed it by 35 seconds. So I know you feel your pain when you don't qualify for Boston. And then the second one, I ran around 2:12. I ran 2:10:03, and then the trials, I was playing catch-up, barely got second. Culpeper made me the last 300, 400. So when I go to Athens, when it started slow, worked my way up, and then I was 5 people, 6 people. I'm like, I just want to get a medal. I don't care what color. And then the gold, in my mind, I already gave the gold to Paul Turgot, who was a 2:04:55. Bear in mind, my best time is 2:10:03, so he has over 5 minutes on me. So that's gold. You can have it, I'm going to fight for silver and bronze, and that's my mentality going in. But at the same time, with about 5 guys left, I said, wow. I just looked at his mechanics, studied what he's doing. He's bouncing on the ground. I decided to push and get it down to 3 people. Once I got it down 3 people, I'm satisfied. I'm going to get my dream, get a medal. And then with 5K to go, which for somebody who's doing fourth marathon, that's a long way. For somebody who has done the 16th marathon, which was Stefano Boldini, with 5K to go downhill, made a move. And I'm like, he's going too fast. I'm going to hit the wall. I'm going to lose that bronze medal or silver medal, so I better protect this medal. And I did. And with the 1 mile to go, I threw my head away, and I'm going to go for him. I ran like 4:31. But he already made the gap. He was spent when he finished. He went to kiss the ground, and he can get back up. So when you see me doing like in New York and Boston, why I don't put my knees and kiss the ground, I want to get back up. So I'd rather do 2-3 push-ups.
That's important.
That's
You don't want to be stuck
important.
down
That's
it.
important.
Or come back the next year and you're still there. That's a little bit of a hassle. What's
So
that thing in the middle of the road? Oh, that's Meb. He won last year. He couldn't get up.
footprint, So that's what it is. And then, but it was my dream came true, where I met my dad where I left 4 years ago. I want to get an Olympic medal for the United States. I did that, and I feel that's one of my, in terms of for the United States, that was the pride for me to be able to help with the U.S. distance resurgence of U.S. distance running, and obviously couldn't have done it without Coach Larson, Coach Vigil, and Dina, and the group that was trained with us. But it was quite fun, and but preparation is the key to success. Is preparation. Key to life is education. If you do your homework, there should be no reason why you can't be successful. And for us, going to the Olympics, I looked at the course. I told Coach Larson, I said, I have no idea what I'm going to feel like at the end of the run, but it's not a hill. Because we train for a hill. When you train for a mountain, you know, people tell you mountains or climb this, climb that. You had that vision, and when you train for that, it's like, really? This is a hill? Just because not overtrain, but prepare, really, really prepare. And that's when I came there, and I guess that's when he realized Meb is going to get a medal, and I'm glad to say we got the medal.
So what I love about it is no American male had won a medal since Frank Shorter did it, and he won a gold in '72 and a silver in '76, and it was until 2004 when you go and take a medal for American male, and Dina does it for the women. What was the reception like when you came back to the States? That was a big deal.
Oh, the reception was awesome. I had, for those of you that don't have read my book, or Run to Overcome, when I'm selling here, you will see there's a love chapter there, and I won't spoil it too much for you, but I met, on 4th of July weekend, I met, at the time, Jordanos, and now my wife, and I asked her, we talked, and she was in San Jose because the trials were in Sacramento, and I came there, and she came to LA for a wedding, and then instead of going back to Tampa, Florida, she came to San Jose where my brother and her brother were playing soccer, and I finally figured out somebody, a Cali girl, because I have done long distance relationship. It didn't work out, and so after the Olympics, we talked every day since then, since July 4th till August 29th was when the race was. I'm like, why don't you come visit the Mammoth? I said, she's like, nope, the guy has to come first, and she gave me the story. I said, well, I can't come visit you until after the Olympic Games just because I've been preparing for this for a long, long time, and I don't want to spoil it. But the ceremony after I won, the race was PM race, by the way. It was 6 p.m. race, finished at 8-something, 8:12, whatever, and then drugged it. I didn't get my victory lap because the drug people took me and straight to the testing area, so I didn't get victory lap. And then from there, they took us to the new. We finished the old stadium, going to the new stadium, and then by the time I got to my room was about 1. Then I got to be ready by 2:30 to get to leave the flight because my flight was booked for 4:30 a.m.
Oh.
And basically the ceremony was get to Frankfurt to DC to Tampa. But what I did was I hand carried my bouquet from the Olympic Games for my first date. That was, and she said, Jordan is like, go to San Diego where the community is waiting for you, your parents, your sibling. But I says, I might have won a medal, but I'm not going to change who I am. And I went straight to that and, be able to, because you win championship doesn't change who, you should be true to yourself and never should affect who you are. And, the celebration was later on. We came here, we had a great night in La Jolla. The airport was amazing. People waited for us. And so it was, winning the silver was huge.
So 2008,
I don't want to talk about it.
I know. Go to the Olympic trials. You go to Olympic trials and you finish, I think, 8th, something like that. 8th in Olympic trials in the marathon. And afterwards, your hip is bad. I remember you telling us that the next day, they ran the Olympic trials the day before the New York City Marathon. So the next day was the marathon, and Meb basically had to crawl across your hotel room to look out the window to watch the marathoners go by because your hip was that messed up. You couldn't stand up.
Mm-hmm. Human nature, when you accomplish something, you want to accomplish more. And when I won the silver medal, I'm like, I'm going to go for the gold. Because that was my 4th marathon. I'm going to have more experience 4 years later, should be able to do it. And, I got 70 days later after the silver medal, I finished 2nd and ran a personal best in New York. The next year, New York, after rupture quad, 8 weeks of training, I finished third. 2006, Boston, I finished third. And then 2007, I started London, but then I had a really bad blister issue in 2007 Olympic in Jacksonville, Florida, the 15K. Ryan Hall just set the Houston record, a half marathon. Then he wanted to set the 15K record, and he took it out blazing fast. And I'm trying to follow him, and contact ground time, just like really just bottom of my foot had a big blister, and they took the whole callus out. And when I came to London in April, it finally filled in, but it was still new, and about 15 I have to stop. Why did I stop? Because I know in November I have the Olympic trials. But they're like, I was in 15th place. No, you look good, let's stretch the calves and keep going. I'm like, no, I can't go. They're like, why not? You can still finish. I'm like, no, I got the trials in November, and now you got to get ready for that. And I dropped out, and the guy that puts the meet in London, he's dropped out, and I told you a funny story, and I know I'm making it long, but so I'm like nervous. I'm like, what's going on? I'm finished. He's gonna be disappointed. I will never get invited to this race again. And then all I had was t-shirt, my singlet, the shorts, and Meb. Going to the trolley. I mean, not trolley, but the subway.
Yeah.
That's how they pick you up. Just go this way and then go in the subway. And I'm like, so embarrassed. And then next thing I know, somebody 600 something just pulled out with the number. He's like, what happened? I'm like, my Achilles. And then wait, on the next stop, he goes, Haile Gebrselassie just jumped on the subway. I'm like, no way, I don't believe you. No way, I don't believe you. And then Haile's like, Haile, what happened? It's like, my chest. And then next thing you know is, you guys know Haile Gebrselassie is the greatest distance runner. The next thing we know is Khalid Konuchi. Khalid Konuchi is American record holder, still is in the marathon, and he won London twice, Chicago twice, and done phenomenal. And then what happened? He's like, my Achilles. The next thing we know is Stefano Boldini, who beat me in London, stops out. And then what happens, Stefano? He's like, my hamstring. So all those guys that have accomplished so many things, we were in the same.
On the subway. You're all on the
subway
together.
I
love that.
There was a guy here locally who says, tells the story. You were probably thinking you were the fastest guy in 2:09 something. Then the highlight stops, and then Khalid Konuchi stops, and then the gold medalist stops. That's just a fast subway. But but the funny thing is, when we got back, by the time we get the subway and go to the finish line, the name that we thought we had won, the spectators. So they're like, congratulations. We're like, oh, really? We didn't do very much. But sometimes you just want to keep that conversation short. It's like, thank you, and then just walk away. So, anyways, that race, to go to the trials, is something I never won a marathon race. I really wanted to win the trials. I was the fittest I ever been, ripped as I can be. I ran my fastest, under 28 minutes in the 10K. I ran all those road races. But my problem was I carried that same weight, 119, 117, from July till November. And November come around, I was, in fact, going to the starting line. I was next to Ryan Shea. He's like, we talked about, about the race and how our first trip for me, Brussels, the police escort you taking on the bus, and then for him was Mombasa, where he made the World Cross Country team, how the U.S. bus could not stop, they could have kept going, and then all of a sudden we just got back to race mode. I listened to my music, and race goes off, and I'm like, I was 5-1 favorite to win. I remember Ryan Hall telling me, he's like, I just want to be on the Olympic team with you. And Ryan Hall, myself, and Dathan were up there, and then all of a sudden the ambulance gets on the way about 10 miles into the race. And I'm like, why can't they keep the road closed? Why the ambulance has to get in here? And I'm like, Ryan, let's just pick up the pace, and 10 miles into the race, and let's solidify 1, 2, 3, break away from everybody. He's like, that's too early, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, but we need to go. And then he said, let's see what the next mile is going to be. And then we ran a 4:47. We're like, that's plenty fast enough, just keep it. And then a mile later, I get cramp on my calves. And then I start overcompensating. And then my hip Then I'm like, I'm use Ryan to go to make the team, and then all of a sudden, I was in second. I know I was not gonna win that day. Maybe I could be second. Maybe I could be third. Maybe I could be fourth and as alternate. Maybe fifth as a second alternate. So keep going, and then I was in seventh place, and then about half mile to go, this guy, you can hear him from a mile away. He's like, I'm like, God, please help me beat this guy. And I didn't beat him, he beat me. As Bob said, I finished 8th place. You know what, congratulated those guys. And then as soon as I walk away to the finish line, and somebody goes, do you know what happened to Ryan? I'm like, it was a moist day, kind of a little bit wet. I'm like talking about Ryan Ho. It's like, I know he won, I would think, or he fell or something. It's like, did he fall? He's like, no, Ryan Ho, did he fall? No, he's like, no, Ryan Shea. And he's like, no, what happened? He's like, he's dead. I'm like, and I was sitting next to him, which at that moment I didn't even remember that. I just went to the ground and just started crying hysterically, and it's like, how can it be? And once I fell, I couldn't get up. You know, people have to carry me, put me in the taxi, and the press conference we actually knew what happened, but it's not released yet, so you have to hide it somewhat of what happened, and it was a tragic moment for all of us, and it puts in perspective life, though, making the Olympic team, which I was disappointed with, versus losing life. So, you know, you have to put some perspective, and I tell Howie right away, go look for Alicia, and she was already checked out and gone, and I was just crawling places and feet are swollen, and didn't, you know, people always talked about Central Park Quatrium course is going to be hard and difficult, and I'm thinking that's what my hip is, you know, but it was 10 weeks later that I did the MRI, and he says, good news, you don't need a cortisone shot for your performance syndrome. Bad news is that you had a pelvic stretch fracture, the bones are finally filling in, and you don't need surgery, so.
And you were how old then?
I don't know, I was 2000.
34-ish?
34, yeah.
So you're 34, and at that point you've already won Olympic
I'm born
silver
75, so I'm trying to do the math.
Yeah. So you've already won an Olympic silver medal. I mean, at that point, you're probably thinking, you know, my career might be over.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was prime time for me, the peak for marathoning, going to Beijing, but you didn't make the Beijing. And I remember I was literally, I mean, for those of you that are parents, well, imagine when your kid was crawling for the first time on elbows and knees. That's how I was. If I wanted to go all the way over there, I would crawl to here, use the wall over there, step by step, one side to side. And my wife saw me. She says, you know, we've been married since 2005. She's like, no way, you have to stop. This is not the way to make a living. And I just said, you know what? If I'm happy with an American record, national title, silver medal, and whatnot, if it's God's will, I'm okay to hang it up. I was completely satisfied. But I knew what I was doing in training was not exemplified on that day. And even when Ryan Hall says, you know, I just want to be on the team with you, they knew what I was doing. And I said, let's pray about it. If it's over, it's fine. Let's move on. But I said, you know, 2 days later or 3 days later, probably I said, you know, I'm going to make my Olympics. I can't wait another 4 years not, you know, to compete or to try to win a race. I'm going to say New York City Marathon will be my Olympics. And I set that personal goal. And I believe in what I do and what I train and how hard I work. And, you know, there's that 520 that I told you earlier, 7th grade.
Yeah.
That kind of comes to catch me every time. It's like, oh, you got the talent, but if you do hard work, I'm not the most talented guy, let me tell you, but I believe that nobody should outwork me. I should, you know, I'm running right now, getting to fitness, but, you know, if talent is there, but if you nurture it, you can be a great thing, and that's what hopefully we'll talk about more.
So when you go into New York, 2009, again, not having the fastest time in the field, and a lot of people thinking that your career was pretty much on the way down. I mean, you were not the guy who people were picking to win that race. And if I'm not mistaken, was that the first marathon that you won?
Yes.
Yeah, New York, 2009.
2009, I said my marathon 2002, 7 years later in New York. I really believe I could win New York. I was ninth first time.
Yep.
Second time I was second place. Third time I was third in 2005. 2006, I thought that was my year to win it. I had food poisoning, finished 22nd in 2 hours and 20 something. And then 2007 was the trials. 2008, I had an offer. I was invited to run. I said I could finish fourth or to 11, but I don't know what that's going to place me, so I don't want to do it just because I want to save it for the good ones. And then 2009 was when, my dream came true. Just you work hard, you have vision that you can win it, you can get second place, third place, and the media is not supposed to cheer for anybody, but when I won and the New York City Marathon went to the media room, they all gave me standing ovation just because, when you work hard and they see you second place, third place, you want to do it, and then all came together for me, and that was my first win, and I was wearing the USA jersey, so we had for the motto for the Running USA before it became Miami Track Club was Running USA, taking on the world, what has been done in the 70s and the 80s, so that's what I was thinking that moment, so I'm like pointing to the USA jersey, and it gave me a great pride to be able, for me, that self-satisfaction that I said my Olympics, and the silver medalist was there, the three-time Boston Marathon champion was there, a guy that has run 2:04:28, James Conby was there, and many others, but you just got to do on the race day. You do the work, you do the best that you can, and if they ran 2:04, I probably wouldn't beat them that day, but guess what? When you go to New York, that's all about the title, and I came victorious on that day. It was nice because I wanted to make a move where Ryan Shea passed away. That's what and then the Robert Cherry was trying to get rid of me. He was trying to surge, and then we came in a churn. I made the churn and then just made a move, and then I'm like, probably literally from here to the mirror, he let me have gap. I'm like, he must be tired. So just the next 1 minute is the most crucial race. I just sprinted as hard as I can. He let me have more gap. And then when I went by Ryan Shea, I did cross myself, and then the rest mile and a half or so was more like celebration, and the lead got bigger and bigger, and I enjoyed it immensely, and pointed at USA jersey and having a good time with interacting with the crowd. And
did your push up at the finish?
I told you I'm not gonna put my knees down, and man, I get back up. Don't make those mistakes. You gotta learn from other people's mistakes too, not just yours.
So you were at Boston in 2013, but as a spectator, you're watching that year. Where were you when the bombs went off?
2013 was a glorious day. I started watching the race from the hotel, the lobby, the Fairmount Copley, and then people kind of get in the way to bring food or to take food or talk, get in the way in front of the TV. I'm like, tell Howie, see if he can get me to the grandstand, because I usually never see people run. I get drug tested or get the media obligation. I want to go there and watch it, and I was watching at the grandstand. Many people crossed the finish line. I was there for about 4 hours basically, and I had a 1 hour appointment for Universal Sports recap, and it got cold. I don't know, Rob is here. Rob is there with the red shirt, Rob Hill, and we're watching it together. We were going from the shade to the sun, from the shade to the sun, and then I want to keep enjoying watching. And in fact, I tell him I'm going to write a speech, take mental notes, because this is such an amazing experience. And then he gave me his jacket, stay there longer. And then I'm like, look at my watch. I got that appointment, and I want to do a good job with recap of the race. I want to know the names and the time splits and this, and then left. We both left, and then we made it to the Copley's, Fairmount Copley, and then it was probably 300 meters or so, and we got in, and next time was the bomb exploded. And you heard something in the building, and we didn't think a big deal of it, and then it's like, I remember they shoved me to the media room. They got a radio. There's a bombing on Boylston Street. Like, how can it be? I was just there, and there's so many people, and I couldn't comprehend.
When did you commit yourself to racing Boston? And it seemed like it was something that was very, very important to you, just to be at that starting line.
After throughout the day, it was a nice day, and then it started horrific, and watching the CNN and the news, and then Debbie Ford from ESPN.com was on the restaurant, and she asked me, "Are you gonna come back?" I said, "I have to come back." I hope to be healthy to win it, but I have to be at least here physically
Yeah.
to support, because as runners we have to stick together. And yeah, I was committed then that year to just say, no, may God give me the strength to be healthy and see what happens. But you never know with that. As an athlete, there's always something always going on. And basically, I committed myself. When we came a week later, I remember we did at Dianza Cove. Dianza Cove, Mission Bay Park. Hundreds, thousands of people showed up for the Monday run, and with the bibs and Boston Strong, and you see a hat that says Boston Strong, and there's constant reminders that goes throughout the day for 365 days. It's like, what can I do positively to change that scene? And I really wanted to meet the parents of the relative of the people that passed away, because I was a spectator that day, just like me, or what my wife would have been, or my 8-year-old daughter and whatnot. So I don't know why, that if it wasn't for the appointment, we would have been there longer, and I don't know how would I have been affected. I know millions and millions of people got affected by it, and I'm like, well, I want to do something and just work hard and see what happens. The whole goal is just stay healthy, get to the
Right.
starting line healthy, and then training don't go as it's gone in the past, but I was healthy and consistent and ready to compete, and that.
So on race day, you had the names of the 4 people who lost their lives on your bib.
Yeah, I mean, when I do a book signing or expo appearances, people ask me to sign their bib for motivation. And then what I wanted to do was, I tell Jordanos and Howie is, I probably need to print the 4 pictures of the victims, have a cross, have in each angle, in each square, the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and have it under my bib number, and then pull it out as I come to this finish. But to try to untake this and whatnot, take the pictures out is going to be take too much time, and I don't know how racing is going to be. And so I was very nervous to write their names down, because the sponsors, what I wanted to do was write bigger, and then maybe it says Meb, and then come from the angle to the Meb, and then come into
Right.
that. But I'm like, I don't know what the sponsor's gonna do, so I just wrote their name with a Sharpie, and then all of a sudden, that's a great idea. And then somebody else started doing their first name and last name initials, and then it was well received. I'm like, okay, that's great. But I was really, really nervous, because people usually told us not to do anything with the bib and
Right.
all that stuff. So, but yeah, I just wanted to. I know I was running for them, and want to think about them, and getting the best out of myself. And they'll say Boston Strong, and I wanted to. That day, I just ran my heart out. Whatever happens, I was gonna come. I was healthy. I felt like I was already won, just because I was healthy in one piece, getting there is a positive, and then the rest is I'm gonna go out there, do my best. Whatever the outcome is, I'm gonna be happy with it. 3 goals: win, podium, or personal best. And especially if I ran under 209 and finished 15th, I was still gonna celebrate like I won, because that's something that I never done, and give them my best. If I give them my best, that's all I could ask of.
So you have a minute lead, more than a minute lead, and then all of a sudden it's 11 seconds, 12, it's coming from 12 seconds, 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 6 seconds, but you end up winning by 11 seconds. But it got pretty tight. Were you concerned there in that last part of that?
The race was an epic race, epic moment, and a reason to run. I wrote on my press release, it says we 36,000 people deep, and I hope we run united. And I just gonna give it about 4 miles, 5 miles. What people realize later on, I realized, just like I did in Paul Turgot in 2004 Olympics, I saw the defending champion and then 2 other Ethiopians get in the front, and then the way they were landing their feet, I could just see. I'm like, they tried to slow it down. I said, no way. I went between them, kept pushing. Boyd went with me, Joseph Boyd, and then at 8 Mile, I told him I think they're worried about the jackpot for the major marathons,
Right.
grand prize money. He probably said yeah. And then at 13 miles, I have no idea what our split was. I just looked at my watch and I said 13.79 and 107 something. So I missed the halfway. I was in the zone, halfway point. I said, don't worry about it. It's about the title. And then about 14 and a half, 15, Josephat, when you get nervous or tired or lose concentration, you bump into somebody. He bumped into me. Mental note, he's getting fatigued. 16th mile, 4:30, 4:30. I said, the reason for that is I want to be by myself going up those challenging hills. I don't want anybody breathing on my shoulders. So knowing the course that helped. I could use a press truck to pace me. I could use the crowd to motivate me to cheer. They're going to help me. And I ran 4:31 and then made the right turn. I was having really bad landing with my foot. I said, ignore the pain, ignore the pain. About 18 and a half, 19 miles. I'm like, USA, USA. I'm like, focus. You still got a race to go. Focus, focus. And then about 21 above the hill, I'm like, it was a little bit wind. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna work together and they're gonna catch up to me. At 22, I get cramp on my left side. I'm like, he doesn't know, I'm the only one that knows. Just as I land, breathe, and try to massage it. At 23 is when I realize, wow, I'm gonna get caught. I looked to the right side of me. Intuition told me that. I looked. I have no idea who it is, or how long he's been chasing me, or how many of them are coming. I'm like, I'm in trouble. I pushing myself. 3 options came. Slow down, let him catch up to you, and solve it, and save some energy on Boylston. 2, maintain the gap. 3, try to extend the gap. 2 and 3 were better options, because if he catch up to me, he has a mental edge. It's going to be over. So I kept pushing and pushing. At 24, I stuttered a little bit to throw up, but never came out. So I'm like, oh, this, nobody else knows this, just myself and the others, but I can tell. And I'm like, all right, 25. I said, the crowd is on your side. Just keep pushing, just keep pushing, just keep pushing. And then on Cam Ave, you see on the underpass, there's a big sign like that says Function Smart. It says 1K to go. I'm like, this is not good. I know how far a mile to go is, but he knows exactly how much he has left now. 1K is international language for European and Africa and whatnot. I'm like, that's not a good sign for me. Why do they have to have that sign? And basically I said, 3 minutes of pain. I know he's going to think 3 minutes of pain, 3 minutes of pain. And I said, well, 3 minute pain for me too. Just keep digging, keep digging. I knew there was a turn coming up to the right on Hereford. I made the right turn. Now sprint like I did 2004. The next 30, 40 seconds is going to be crucial. Sprint as hard as you can. By the time he comes back to the turn, be like, what happened? That was my goal. Making the right turn, take the tangent, making the right turn. I crossed myself. I said, God. I looked back. I don't know. I looked a lot of times, but I just remember one. I said, God, this is your will. You gave me the strength to get this far. I know this looks a short distance when I turn, but I know for a fact it is 600 meters, not even though it looks like 300 meters. Keep driving, and what I wanted to do was something where the bombing happened. I said, this is too big of a race. Just keep going until the tape touches your chest. Once you know that, you can do whatever you want. And I just crossed myself, and what was bombing site a year ago, just to chant USA, USA, just looking back and have a positive outlook on, just do the best that you can each time and every time. And you never really see people, 99% of the people will get caught, and the people that make a move like that. But for whatever reason, I didn't get caught, and I attribute to the people that helped me be through training, the things that I do. It's not what you do in running, but how you take care of yourself the next 22 hours. Is the small icing, the drills, the core, the therapy, all those, it kept me up and never broke my form. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience to come the first American in 31 years to be able to say, I'm always a believer, but God has a purpose for me. That day, I felt like I was meant to be a runner, just because what's the coincidence that happened last year? I could have won in 2006 or 2010 when I had a chance, and to be able to do it on the most important day when everybody was watching for a greater cause, and to be able to say, you know what, I came in first in front of this 36,000 people that were running to own the Boylston Street and to change it in a positive way. I feel blessed, and 2 weeks shy of my 39th birthday.
Yep.
Many people had wrote me off. They all wrote me a long time ago, anyways. But you gotta believe. You gotta believe in what you do and what your purpose is, and keep. If you know that, you know what, they can write you off. They can do whatever. You just gotta earn it. You gotta work hard, and I feel blessed to have that opportunity and to represent the United States in a positive way, and to be an American in 31 years, to bring back the trophy and to do it for the people that victims and the crowd and the help expedite the healing process. And that's what it was all about. And you never know. You can't play defense in running. I had no idea that guy, how long he's been chasing me. Yeah, it was 6 seconds, then 7 seconds, 6 seconds, then eventually it was 11 seconds that I want to buy, but just keep digging, and I was in pain. I was hurting, but when big things waiting on your shoulder, then you got to do it, and I feel proud to have done it.
How about a big round of applause for Mr. Meb Keflezighi? Yeah, a little standing ovation. Hey, we like that. 2:08:37 was the PR, by the way, at the age of almost 39 years old. Meb, thank you so much for taking time, buddy.